crazy. Hey everybody, Tim Curtis here with Piney, Tennessee podcast. Doing something a little different today with the podcast. Instead of having a group, we just got one today, and it's kind of like Meet Your Neighbor Day. So Matt Lawrence will be joining us today, and he's going to be sharing some stories with us, and he opened up his beautiful home here for us to be here today, so we're thankful for that. All right, let's start with always with a word of prayer. Father, thank you for this day, Lord, and I ask that you just bless this time with the friend that I have here, Lord, that you just bless our time together and let us be about your business, Lord. Lord, to thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for everything you blessed us with. I love you, and I ask all these things in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, here we go. All right, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Matt Lawrence, and I moved to Piney we moved in this house in 2016. And we sort of landed here, I'd love to say on purpose, but not really on purpose. It kind of turns out where we knew we wanted to be out of the big city, whatever that big city is. Knoxville's not that big of a city. We grew up outside of Atlanta. That's a big city. And when we came here, we knew we wanted to be out a little bit. I grew up spending some time with my grandparents in West Tennessee in the summers and on a farm, so I knew we wanted to try that.
So Georgia was your home?
Georgia was where I grew up. I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, but we moved to Georgia when I was 2 or 3 years old. So Georgia's my home and where I grew up. And we've been here since 2013. We moved in this house in 16, so I bought the farm, so to speak, in 2014, and just have loved it ever since. And when we drove out this area, we would spend Sunday afternoons after church. You can talk to my kids about it. They were like, "Ugh, we're going driving again." So we'd just go out looking at the land, trying to find something, and knew we wanted to be out. And because we just grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, and I love people and I love my neighbors, but I just wanted to be a little further away, right? And that when we came out here, we just fell in love with it, and that's it. So we got out here and looked at it, saw it, and was like, man, and then God had his hand in putting us where we are. And I'll tell this story about how I met some of the Simpson family who owned this place, and we got the farm first, and then we were trying to figure out what kind of house and where and all that. There was a house on it, and we were trying to fix that up. We just thought, that's a perfectly good house. Let's go in there and fix that thing up. And long story short, we had to end up just totally redoing it. But in the meantime, I'll never forget this experience that I had on the place. It was a long week at work, and I called, I forget which company it was, and I said, I need a skid steer with the biggest bush hog on the front of that thing you can imagine. Because I just thought, I want to go destroy something. I need some therapy. So, and they said, I called them up and said, I need this here. I don't have a truck. I'm still driving an old minivan. And they said, you need it dropped off? Yes, drop it off right there. And they said, do you need the damage waiver? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, if you do any damage to it, it's an insurance policy that covers it. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to need the damage waiver.
Yeah, going to need that.
I'm going to try to get in there and I'm going to cause some damage.
Yeah, we're going to get her done
that's
today.
That's right. I get on that thing. It's one of the first times I've driven it. I figured it out, and I just start, plowing in. If there's something, because this whole place, it was grown up all over the place and throughout the woods. And it just had a little bit of neglect. But, sometimes as the farms come and people can't keep up with it over time, as a lot of these places do, it's for sale, and
grows up.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of work to stay on it. And so it had grown up, and I thought, I'm just going to trim this thing out. And as I start doing it, next thing I know, a pear falls and hits that window, and I go, wait, that looked like something. And as I'm cutting through, I see coming out of this growth, there's a pear tree, there's another pear tree, there's a crabapple tree, and I look at it and I say, I'm in the middle of an orchard. There's somebody put this here. Because it's in a way that, when God made the earth, he didn't put things as a monoculture in rows, right?
Yeah.
That's not how he did it. That birds don't drop their seeds that way. So I'm looking at it going, there was somebody's hands have been here. And sure enough, long story short, and talking to the previous owners of this place, yes, there was an orchard there. And those are the trees that were planted there.
Right.
And so, in my therapy, by destroying this stuff in that skid steer, I realized like there are hands that have been on this place, and I started thinking about how many lives and feet and hands and hearts and minds had been
Right.
touching the structures and the trees and the ground and the landscape, and how here I was seeing and discovering it, and from that there was an inspiration to go, maybe let's pick up here and go. And so fast forward to now, we've got over 100 apple trees and peach trees and more pear trees, and we pick them every year. It's become a part of what we do in our family every year in the season to do that. And I think that's really, really what turned us on to, we didn't know it at the time and couldn't articulate it, but now seeing that and meeting the people here in Piney and listening to the stories and knowing that there are lives and hearts and minds and feet and work
Oh yeah.
that has put into the soil here, literally and figuratively, in this area, and to be able to take that, touch those hands back in history and go, okay, I got it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, this is God's creation. It doesn't belong to me. Obviously, don't
Right.
tell that to the bank, but it doesn't belong to me. We're here to take care of it, be good
Right.
stewards of it, and maybe one day somebody else will do that and hopefully keep it the way it is, because I love progress, I love capitalism, but at the same time, the growth and expansion of the big city coming out this way, pros and cons, I want it to stay exactly the way it is. And I don't know, just this view and to see what God has created and to see what Piney has and the beauty and the quiet and the peace,
Right.
it just touches my soul and it fills me up. So
Right.
I know I said destroy, but it was therapy, and it brought us to
Beautiful
we love
place.
it. And the people. That's really beautiful to see what God made, but everybody we meet, it's just that's the real blessing.
Right.
Of being here with the neighbors.
Hey y'all. Hope you're enjoying the new podcast so far. Look forward to many, many more episodes, and glad that I could be part of the first one. If y'all don't mind, jump over to Pine Life on YouTube. Check out some of my hunting content, and as always, God bless.
Yeah, and so the people here are awesome, and I see things that remind me of my past, and I hope this doesn't incriminate me too much, but I've told this story a time or two. When I went away to college, it was a wide open space, new horizon, and there was one thing in particular that I thought was just the coolest thing ever. And I'd see somebody that had the skull ring in the back of their pants. That pocket there I thought was the coolest thing ever. I got to do that. So by golly, go big or go home. I went and I got a whole roll of the Copenhagen long cut, and I said, I'm doing it. It's an acquired taste. You have to figure out how to do it. And I'm like, I'm doing it. And so for about 30 days, I was committed. I was going to make it happen. I threw up in that 30 days more than I ever have my entire life trying to do it. And finally I said, I give up. I am not man enough to get on this stuff and stick with it.
Admit defeat.
That's
Woo!
right. You win, Copenhagen. But there's one other little twist. So it was in our dorm room, and I didn't make it through that whole roll. So it's sitting there on the bookshelf in our dorm room, and the cleaning ladies at the dorm room came by. And they don't go in our rooms at all, but we had the door open and it was sitting there. One of the cleaning ladies, God bless her soul, she barely had a tooth in her mouth, and she had a wad, and she said, "Is that your snuff right there?" And I said, "Well, yes it is." And she said, "That's my kind. You mind if I get a pinch of it?" And I said, "Well, would you mind coming in here and vacuuming the floor a little bit? And she said, oh yeah, I'll clean that, no problem. And I said, there'll be a can of Copenhagen right here on this bookshelf every Monday. She said, I'll clean your room. And so I had cleaning service that whole year in my college dorm for a can of Copenhagen, because that lady was more of a man than I was to be able to handle it.
That's hilarious.
So I bought way more Copenhagen than I used that year.
Yeah.
But I did. And I told that story at work. Probably shouldn't have. And those girls at work, they got me one of those little stress balls that is a can, and I put it in my jean pocket every now and then just to make me feel cool.
The reason why that he says at work is a problem because he is a doctor, and doctors ain't supposed to have cans of Copenhagen in their pocket, so that makes it a little different at work for him.
A little bit of a contradiction to say, you need to take care of yourself while I got water chew in my mouth.
That's great. All right, so him telling that story about tobacco made me think about my mom. My mom, she smoked, back in the 60s, that was the thing to do. Like you was talking about being cool, everybody had a can of bagger. Well, Mom and Dad grew up in the era where everybody had a pack of smokes in their pocket, and that was what you did. So they all smoked, and smoked for years. Well, then they decided, everybody went on this quit smoking thing. So Mom and Dad decided to quit smoking. Well, they was having a hard time with it. So they decided to resort to a little chewing tobacco. So Mom get her chew tobacco, and and it wasn't no big deal. She didn't want nobody to know what to start with. Then it turned into, I'm gonna tell everybody I'm chewing tobacco. And a lady that she cleaned with, Betty Udy, which is like a sister to her. Well, they took and they would ride in a little Ford Escort back and forth to work all the time, and they kept a spit cup in between the seats, and they'd dip that peach chewing tobacco. They'd buy it, and then they got off on a snuff called Silver Creek, and they'd chew that stuff. And then as time went along, Mom kept an icing cup, like you get icing can, the plastic tubs.
Oh, yeah.
She would keep that as her spit cup at home because that's the way my papa done it. So one day I went in there and she was ironing clothes. And it was long about the time Jeff Foxworthy and all them started coming out, with all their stuff.
You might be a redneck.
You might be a redneck. Well, I come in through the house and she had that spit cup sitting on that iron board, and I walked by and I looked back and I went, Mom, I'm a redneck. She said, "Hey, no." I said, "Because my mama keeps a spit cup on the ironing board."
All right, there you go.
So I know I'm a redneck. There's no way of not knowing that.
Did she agree with you?
Oh, yeah. So she loved it so much, she would, even like, when we go to the doctor and stuff, all through her cancer stuff, and when we go to the doctor, every new doctor we'd come to, she'd say, "I know my son's a redneck." And they'd look at him and say, "Well, how you know?" And say, "Well, because I keep a spit cup on my ironing board."
You might be a redneck.
You might be a redneck. All right, we've had a little fun, but I want to get down to little meat and taters here. So we're going to get with Matt, and I asked him to tell his story of what he was doing in college and what led him up to the events that happened that led him up to being a doctor. You never know what God's got in store for your life, and sometimes you seem like you're at a dead end, and God opens up different doors, and it ends up being the way He wanted it to. So I'm going to let Matt tell his story here.
Yeah, so as Tim said, I'm a doctor, and if you were to go back, and we just had our 30th high school reunion and a bunch of people there, if you were to go to that reunion and you were to say my name to some of the friends that knew me then, hey, he's a doctor, you might get some surprised looks. It was not in the cards for me to do that. I didn't plan on it, never thought about it at all.
What kind of doctor are you?
I'm a good one. That's what they're supposed to say, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm an ophthalmologist. I'm an eye doctor. And so I started out, I was in sports and athletics and music. I was good at music. I enjoyed it a lot. So I went away to school, not sure what I wanted to do, and just kind of goofed off, tried to get Copenhagen on board and all that kind of thing. And I spent more time fishing than I did really studying. And after that first year, still didn't have a direction. Went back home and worked full-time, school part-time for a couple of years. That portion of my life summed up, I needed to get back in school. I knew I needed to go back to school. I was good at music. I had some scholarships to do that, so I thought, I like this, and I'll be a songwriter. Moved to Nashville, be a songwriter. That's what I wanted to do. So I was headed to finish a degree in music performance. This is not exactly a very straight path to get to where I am today, but I was a tuba player, a classically trained tuba player, and that's
Where was you going to school at?
In North Georgia College.
North Georgia College.
So I think it's called the University of North Georgia now, in Dahlonega, beautiful area in North Georgia mountains. Good little music program, solid school, and so I was studying music, had a scholarship to do that, and this is in 1998, and we had my roommate, same kind of situation where he was good at music, he wanted to do business, wasn't sure what he wanted to do, but he knew he needed to get back in school and finish it. So he had done that. We met each other actually in the registration line, looking at each other going, I'm a junior and there's a bunch of freshmen, and
Right.
the 2 years that I had on those freshmen, I was so much more mature.
Yeah.
And so he and I kind of caught each other's eyes and, hey, let's do this. We became roommates, and both kind of in the same place trying to say, hey, we got to get serious about this. Finish school.
Figure out what you're going to do.
Yes, let's go. And it was great. Ended up being a dear friend. So he and I took a trip down to my brother's high school band concert to hear that, and then we're headed back up to school because he had a curfew. It was a military school, so we were in the senior ROTC, and everything that comes with being in the ROTC. I had some colorful names attached to me and got yelled at a lot. So it was good, needed the discipline, and so that place was really good for us. But that's where me and Brandon, he and I were roommates. We were met each other through that same circumstance to try to get it right. And on the way back up, we were driving back, and it's Georgia 400, Highway 400, headed up to Dahlonega. I don't know, it's kind of like the same setup as Pellissippi Parkway, where you have 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south, or east or west, whatever. It was north and south in Georgia, and you had uncontrolled access. So like you might have a neighborhood pulling out onto Pellissippi.
Right.
A neighborhood pulling out onto Georgia 400, and then you have this big grass median in the middle. So here's a tip for drivers: if you are stay in the right lane, because somebody coming the wrong way down the road is going to be in the right lane and you will miss them. So we're in the fast lane, in the left lane, at night, about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and there was a car in front of us. We're doing the speed limit, going 70 miles an hour. That's what the speed limit was there. We're going in a car.
Thinking nothing about it, just cruising
going.
along.
Car in front of us, dark, and that car, we're not tailing them, but we're behind them. You got that bird dog of a car, you're going, you're there, and everybody's chilling. A guy, drunker than a skunk, behind the wheel, not from that area, turns the wrong way down that road. He's in his right lane, the fast lane. He's going 65 miles an hour coming down towards us. We're going 70 miles an hour, the car in front of us and us. We meet him. The car in front of us naturally swerves out of the way, and we hit. No brakes. He's going 65, we're going 70. So that's a 135 mile an hour collision, no brakes. Explodes into flames, and our car flips, and here I am, and I'm the only one that survived it. And through that experience, my roommate Brandon, he passed away. The drunk driver burned up, and I had multiple surgeries, went to the hospital, and altered my life in a very, very distinct way.
Did you wake up at the scene?
I woke up. I looked up right before the impact. I remember the impact, and I woke up a time or two the car in front of us that had swerved, they came and pulled me and my roommate out of the car. They couldn't get to the other guy. And I remember waking up a few times as the cars were burning and there were flames, and I remember a glow, and I woke up in the ambulance, clearly in pain, and I knew my arm was broke because I tried to move it, and boy, that hurt. And I knew my legs were not doing so well, but I would come in and out of consciousness in the ambulance. And I think they gave me a lot of medicine too. Rushing to the hospital. Made it to the hospital, and they worked on Brandon for 4 or 5 hours and just couldn't make it. Too much internal damage. I was in the passenger seat. It was my car. A pink Isuzu Amigo. Now that comes out of my mouth, I kind of regret saying it. But everybody called it the Barbie Jeep. But I had a pink Isuzu Amigo. Those were fun cars. You could take the soft top down. It was a lot of fun. It was my car. And I was driving initially. I was hungry. We stopped and got food. I come out of the gas station with a handful of garbage. And Brandon looked at me and was like, rolled his eyes and said, I'll drive. So he drove. He drove my car. I get in the passenger seat, shove all this food down. Woo! Not exactly the model of health that I was consuming at that time. But that gave me a good insulin dump. I leaned back in the seat, went to sleep. And the doctors say that the fact that I was asleep and relaxed is what allowed me to survive that accident. Because there was a space in that car. It bit the frame up in half, and it was mangled, and it caught on fire. And there was a space enough for my body. Everything else is just absolutely crushed. And so here I am.
What all did it break on you?
I broke both of my legs. Both of my legs were broken, the tibia, fibula, both open fractures. Crushed my left heel into about 80 different pieces. Broke my radius and ulna in my left arm and gave me a good gash on my forehead. My Bible was in the glove box, and I did what they call submarining. And when I was in medical school at Virginia Tech, they had a deceleration sled where they would study impacts, and I learned that this is exactly what happened to me. It's called submarining, where you go underneath and go under the dash like that. And I was leaned back, and my legs took the brunt of that, and my face hit that glove box, and the Bible that was right there, stuck in that glove box, kind of protected my face from just getting crushed and caved in the dashboard. Still have that Bible. And it gave me a gash on my forehead, and I think it knocked me out just enough to stay relaxed, stay unconscious, and not just have this in and out
without
memory
panicking and anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, there was plenty of that to come, but I was, a good 18 months of surgeries on and off, put my legs back together, reconstruct my heel, put my arm back together. I got metal rods up and down my legs, and long story short, through that experience and connecting with the doctors and being healed and having to submit to learning to walk again, not knowing if I was going to survive there for the first week or two. The doctors didn't know. I'm obviously losing Brandon, absolutely unnecessary. And through that experience, I connected to, those doctors that helped me. I like that. I want to do that. I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to, if I could just give somebody something that I received in that time, then that'd be wonderful. And then I called the orthopedic surgeon. His name's Dr. Rob, R-A-A-B, Dr. Rob. He's the one that connected with me, and I called him up a couple of years ago, and I said, you don't know me. I called his nurse, and I was like, this is Dr. Lorenz. I need to speak with Dr. Rob. It is a personal matter. Because I didn't know how to get there. I called his office.
You thought I'd get
personal matter.
I
was
him
like,
that way.
I'm going to use this to my advantage. And I said, I need to call him on the cell phone. It's regards to to an old patient of his. And so he called me after work. He's like, this is Dr. Rob. And I just said, hey, you don't remember me, but I want you to know that the experience I had as your patient in 1998 is why I'm here, and this is what I do, and I never will forget it. And he broke down, and I think it really helped him and connected with him. And I sent him a text every Christmas or so just to say, hey, hope your family's doing well, and I appreciate it. And that meant a lot to him. It means a lot to me because it helped point me in that way. And I think it's really neat too, because I think it's by design. I think you know this too. God doesn't say, Tim, I need you to get in your truck and I need you to drive to Mulberry Street and I need you to go see Jim and you need to talk to him. He does. I don't get that from God, but when I do look back at my life, I say it was right there, and He pointed me in that direction and laid that path out. Proverbs 16:9. In a man's heart, he makes his plans, but the Lord guides his step. And so we see in reverse. And one thing I say to people all the time at work is, my crystal ball is not real good, but my rearview mirror is. And so seeing how God's worked in our lives in the past is a lot more clear than looking forward. And then when I look
Absolutely.
in perspective, I go, well, aren't we to have faith? And if He writes it down for us so that we're little monkey robots doing exactly what He says, then that doesn't give us the opportunity to have faith and make that step in a leap of faith. So I see that and go, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And days when it's really tough to get up and go to work, I go, I'm supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And
It's my calling.
it is. It's a calling. And now the country music industry is suffering because I'm not there.
Yeah,
Writing songs,
I
of course.
agree.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah.
And that being said, I've recently got back into songwriting. I've enjoyed that, and it's a way to sort of get back in touch with the love of doing that. And I've had a blast doing that.
Right.
So that's my story.
Back to your first love.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it stayed a love. It didn't become a job. It stayed a love, and the journey that I've been on in medicine and being able to connect with people and
But yet you're still able to help people though
oh my goodness,
by being a doctor.
yeah. And that's the part that, I mean, it's somewhat cliche to go, oh, it's very rewarding, but it really truly is to have someone come back and say, thank you, that was really great. I go, that's really neat. God working through me to be able to see somebody better is a lot of fun. Now let me tell you about the time I was a cowboy for about 30 minutes.
Cowboy,
Okay.
huh?
Oh yeah, it's a good one. So
Yeah, we got to hear this.
So when we got this farm, and then another one came up that's adjacent to it, that's a part of the family, and as I was saying, I hope Piney stays the way it is forever.
Garden's
Because
part of the earth, right?
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. I love it. So we got that farm over there, and we closed the deal, and as I'm shaking hands with the deal, and it's great, everything's wonderful, and it was an estate type of a sale. And there were some cattle. It was a cattle farm. They were doing that, and we'd shaken the deal. And the gentleman that made the deal with me said, well, what do you want to do with those cows? And I said, oh, no problem. You can leave them there as long as you need to. That, no problem. Whatever you need to do with them, that's fine. And he looked at me a little confused and said again, a little slower, what would you like to do with those cows? And of course I repeated it a little slower, a little more. You can keep them there as long as you need to, no problem. I don't want, hey, well, I want to be a good neighbor.
Right?
And he looked at me a little more confused but more stern and said, those are your cows. And I didn't understand it, but the cows were a part of the estate that I had just purchased.
So you bought all the cows with the farm.
The cows came with the farm.
Okay.
And so I said, those are my cows. He said, those are your cows. And I said, I'm going to need a minute. I get on the phone and I call my wife. And I said, hey, we bought some cows. What? How many? What? And it's one of those pull the phone away from your ear moments. And I hold on a minute. How many cows did I buy? And then so we started talking about it. And I knew, and I thought there for a minute, I go, for a good half hour, I said, I got this. I got this.
Well, was your wife, was she excited about this, or was she...
She was excited.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it was a good excitement.
Not a good excitement.
Yeah, there was excitement for sure. And what are we going to do with this? And it was a lot of fun. For about a good half hour, I said, I got this. And then I imagined in my mind, I'm in surgery, doing what I'm called to do. And I get that phone call that says, your cows are out. And I go, that's a little problem. So I thought, maybe I can't, I don't know that I can do this, or maybe I shouldn't do this. So I called some people that I knew. I didn't know a whole lot of people at that time, but I knew good and well that there was this herd that needed to be taken care of, and I was in the right position to be taken advantage of, and so I called some people that I knew and trusted, and we got someone to buy the entire herd as it was to be able to continue it as it had intended to do, which is important to me. I want to continue what people's dreams were. I
And
want
you
to
had
continue that legacy.
you didn't know many people here when this happened.
Not
though.
at all. I knew one person, Bart Watson. I called him. He's the insurance agent. It's now.
So
a
you
good
didn't
friend.
call Jake at State Farm. You
I
called
didn't.
Bart at Farm Bureau.
That's exactly right. Right. And he gave me a name, and it was great. And he took care of me, and it turned out to be a very, very, very
Yeah.
good situation. But in the meantime, I was a cowboy, and so they came and they brought their trailers. And the way that the farm was set up over there, it was well done. It was well done, and they got them all together. But there was a mama and a baby that just wouldn't go into the.
She didn't want. She didn't
No,
want to leave.
she didn't want. What are you doing? I'm staying out here, so that's fine. Well, I had a little 4-wheeler, and I'm standing there, and there's the people that know what they're doing, the real cowboys, and then there's me. You know, I got my new boots that are shiny, and I'm sitting there with a 4-wheeler, and somebody says, "Well, why don't you just get on that 4-wheeler? You go bulldog that baby, bring the baby back, and Mom will come." And I went, "Got it."
You got it.
I jumped on that 4-wheeler, I took off, and right in that moment I thought, bulldogging. I know what that is. That means I got to jump off of here onto that baby, get that thing up in my lap, get back on the 4-wheeler, drive back over there, and that will just gently get Mama to come follow.
Never done this before.
No, but
Yeah.
but I was not. You know, I got something to prove apparently. So I do it, and I go, and I started getting a little scared. But by golly, I didn't want anybody to know it. So I follow up, and I get that baby, and I'm hearing the hoof, and I jump off that 4-wheeler, land on that baby. I think I broke my knee 17 times, but it didn't matter. I picked that thing up, went back on the 4-wheeler because it kept running, jumped on that 4-wheeler, and baby in my lap, and it's just kicking and screaming and hollering, but I got it, and I took off down back towards everybody, and their eyes are about this big. I didn't know it, but they were joking. But I took them seriously and took off before they could tell me that. And I hear,
Oh my God.
and Mama's coming at me like a thoroughbred, chasing after baby, and I'm going, "It's working, it's working." So I keep coming over, and I skid to a stop. The wife of that farmer picked that calf up like a bodybuilder, put that thing in there. Mama goes in, and they said, "I didn't think you were actually going to do that." And I was like, well, "Wait a second, my knee hurt for 2 weeks." And I was a cowboy.
Oh,
Felt like the Wild West.
We was just kidding.
Yeah, we were just kidding. And like, well, it worked. We got the job done. And sure enough, I'm like, I knew at that point, I am not going to do this.
It's like that we wish we could go back in time and have it on video.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, because
Oh,
I mean you can tell the story, but just the picture,
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
didn't never tackled a calf before, jumping off a 4-wheeler,
yeah.
tackling one.
And sure enough, you know good and well, they're like, "Hey, mate, you didn't mean that. Nobody meant that." I got another funny one.
That's amazing. Here in Piney, Tennessee, we refer to all our insurance needs to Bart Watson at the Farm Bureau. Whether it's home or auto, he'll take care of it.
Actually, that'll incriminate me. I was doing something illegal. I probably ought not to say it. I was chasing a deer. Do you remember when I got a black eye? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was chasing the deer, the buck, thinking, I'll get off and knife that thing, right? It's in season, whatever. David's behind me because I'm going to get my dog. Well, there was a doe that ran off, and I just keep barreling down. The doe hit a fence, turned around, and comes back, tries to jump over me, and I face planted into its butt. And it hit me, flipped that deer around, nearly knocked me off the 4-wheeler, sent my glasses spinning, and I had a black eye.
And all you was doing is trying to get your dog, right?
I was trying to go get my dog, but I was chasing that bug.
All right. So before we leave, here was me and Matt. We made a little trade, I guess you'd say, here a while back, and my daddy fixed a. Before he died, he fixed 2 cars up. He fixed a Ford truck, which Steve Udi has now, but he fixed it for Wayne, which was Steve's daddy. And Steve still has that. And then he fixed me a 67 Chevelle. And I love the car, but it hurt so bad every time I got in it. I couldn't stand it. And I told my wife, I said, I can't even do nothing to it. I said, I I got to get rid of this car. And, I thought, I hate for somebody to take that thing and rip it apart and make a drag car out of it. And so I was real reluctant to sell the car. And I prayed about it. And so I'll let Matt tell you what happened with him, but what happened with me, me and Amy and the kids, we prayed about it. We was all upset that we was going to sell the car, but then we thought, well, we got to sell it, and because I can't do nothing with it. So I decided to just post it on Facebook. I posted on Facebook, and it wasn't, what was it, a day?
Maybe. I was at the beach.
Yeah, like 24-hour period. Okay, I get a phone call from Matt about the car. So I'll let him take over from there.
So the way I tell the story is a friend of mine had this car, and I was reluctant to have you drive it up there because I knew it's kind of like I knew that if I heard it and if I sat in it and if I got behind the wheel, I would have no choice. But at the same time, hearing about how the hands in this area had touched it and the story that it has, we're reaching out, and I wanted to be the hand that grabbed and took that and continued the story. Because I don't know if you remember this or not, but we got in there and drove it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do this. I got to act like I'm cool here, but I knew good and well that was happening. And I got my son, David, in the back, and I could tell in his eyes and the words he said to me after we drove in, and he said, I've never had an experience like that in my life. Of course, he's young, so he hadn't had a lot of life, but at the same time, I knew what it was like to ride in my granddad's Corvette when I was younger. It was the coolest
muscle
experience
car.
ever. There's just nothing like it. And so, didn't matter about money, didn't matter about, being cool or nothing, but to be able to connect with my son in the way that I had heard you talk about the connection you had with your dad, and then just what we had talked about before about how this property had hands that worked it, and now those hands, I can grab hold of that and continue that story in the same spirit, and those carrying that story on is something that means a whole lot to me, and to be able to do that, you're going to get to see it. And I told David, every time we go by that house, we got to rev that engine a little bit every time. So I don't know if you've heard it before, but when we drive by, we just punch it a little bit. And it's right now it's in shop getting that list that you had, kind of adding on and continuing the story. But when they asked what I wanted to do with it, I was just like, make it awesome. And that's what I told the guy. And so it's going to be made awesome, and we're going to go. And I think it's something that every young man, I think, that I've talked to, and that me being as a young man, dreams about, getting in those cars. Ladies, we don't know how to explain it.
No.
So bear with us. But it's just an amazing experience that we like to feel connected to. And nowadays, cars are great, but that's a car.
Right.
That is a car. You get in there and you hear it whispering to you, take me out there, let's go. So,
my dad, when I was 15, that was my first car. Not that car, but he had me save my money. And we went and he found a 67 Chevelle wrecked in a junkyard. Well, didn't want to buy it, said it was too much work to fool with. Well, I was fixed to turn 15 when it happened. So then he decided, he got his midlife crisis at the time and decided he bought a brand new Chevelle 67 Super Sport when he was, just got out of high school. He graduated in 63, and then 67 he bought a brand new 67 Chevelle. And then he got drafted to the Army and had to leave it for my mom to drive. While he said the whole time I was in Vietnam, I'm thinking, I ain't gonna have no car when I get back. So when he got back, then of course started a family, and they had to sell Chevelle. So years later, he decided he wanted one. So he found one on a Corvette lot in Clinton, Tennessee, and he restored it, fixed it up, made it just identical to his with mountain green, black vinyl top, 4-speed, 396, the whole deal, just like the one he had. Then he wanted me to have one. So we went back to that one that's in that junkyard, and the guy won $700 for it. So we bought it, and me and him went to fixing on it. And as soon as I turned 16, we got that car done, and that was the car I drove to high school, was a 67 Chevelle.
Oh, man. That's cool.
And it had 327 in it, and it was a fun car. But since then, he fixed up, several old cars, Chevelles and stuff. And then he quit doing it. And then when he retired from this case, he decided he didn't want to do nothing. He just sat on the couch every day, didn't want to do nothing. Just sat there, and we could see him going down every day. And Mom said, she got me off the side and said, you've got to come up with something to get him in that garage. So I looked around and I said, Dad, they got all them Chevelle parts. Why don't we find a wrecked 67 Chevelle? I said, use them parts we got in the garage. I said, fix that thing up. I said, I'd love to have one. He said, okay, I'll do it. Took him there too. And he said, go find us one. I found that car in Camden, Ohio. That's where our car come from. And it was a show car. The guy won 27 shows with that car. And then he put a $40,000 race engine in it, got him a little moonshine involved, and he flipped it. So that's how we ended up with the car. And I went up there and bought it back. And then we bought a 454 from the guy. And Dad said, I know he wasn't happy with that 454, even though it was a hopped up motor. He found a original 1967 396 that's in that car now. He found it from a guy in Monroe County. It had pulled out of a Chevelle and been sitting there for 40 years. Hadn't been touched. Never been rebuilt. Original 396. Rebuilt it. That's the motor that's in that car. And it made his day. And the shifter that's in that car and the hood louvers, that's original hood louvers out of his 67 Chevelle that he had when he bought it brand new. So that's still part of him in that car today.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey everybody. Thank you for watching this episode of episode number 4, Piney, Tennessee podcast. Sorry it's took me so long to get it on. But when we finally did, it was a good one. So appreciate Matt and his family. I couldn't think of anybody better I'd rather have his neighbors out here. They're great. Love them to death. I'd do anything in the world for them. They're wonderful. I hope you enjoy getting to know Matt a little bit better. And that part about the Chevelle, that was my dad's favorite car that he rebuilt. He loved it. And this, I can still see his face when he'd get in it and he'd sit down and he's just so happy with that car. I'm glad that Matt ended up with it, that the way my boy, my girls, they can still see that car as time goes along. That means a lot to me to be able to do that. So I appreciate that Matt has that. I'm so thankful. Hey, always have a great day and be kind to your neighbors, and God bless this country. And one more important thing, don't forget to take your family to church on Sunday. That's the most important thing I could ever tell you. Y'all have a good one.